Hello and welcome back to the channel. Just doing a 2-year update review type thing on my Giant Fathom E3 bike. Just to let you know how it's going. I've owned this bike now for 2 years. They come in different sizes: small, medium, large, extra large. I got the extra large because I'm quite a tall person, which is fine for me. Mileage wise, the best I've had out of it is 80 kilometers or 50 miles, and that's turning off the motor as often as possible, coasting down hills with the motor off, etc. But I've never been able to get up to that amount of mileage. Normally I use it on 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 constantly, and I get an average of 53 kilometers or 33 miles, so it's less than what the claimed mileage is. Lately I've been getting about 43, and the battery is completely dead. Sometimes 53. It depends on how you ride it. I do ride on some steep terrain, being living in Wales, and this is like when the red light is flashing. In other words, the battery is about to completely die then. So yeah, the battery is integrated into the frame, which is quite good. It weighs about 3.5 kilograms, 409 watt hours. I couldn't remember what it was again. 36 volts. It comes with 2 keys, so you've got a spare one. The claimed mileage ideal is 150 kilometers or 93 miles, and good is 90 kilometers or 56 miles, and extreme is 45 kilometers or 28 miles, which is about what I'm getting out of it. So I must be doing a lot of extreme mountain biking. I don't go overboard with it, but I don't go slow either. Normally, like I say, I put it on power of 2 out of 5 is the maximum. Extreme hills I go to 3 or 4 out of 5. I've charged it now 112 times within 2 years. Supposed to last 600 charges, so the battery should last about 10 years on this. Yeah, 10 to 12 years. So yeah, the battery does tend to also move around a bit. It has a bit of play on it, but there's nothing much you can really do about it. I was thinking maybe to shove a piece of rubber or something in there, but then it may be difficult to get it out when you need to remove it. So that's the only complaint I've got about that, really. The charger does get quite hot. It takes about 3 to 4 hours for a full charge, and the good thing is the charger switches off when the battery is charged up, so at least the thing shouldn't catch fire. Bosch motor, which is mounted by the crank. That's a pretty good motor. I haven't got any complaints about that. Seems to be quite reliable even in wet conditions. I haven't had any issues with it at all so far. So that's the pedal assist. The frame seems pretty solid. Haven't had any issues with that. The only thing is, with this bent bit here, you can't really use the carrier on that. I haven't tried sort of configuring it in a different way as someone suggested, but this bike is probably a bit heavy to put on the back of my car anyway. I'll have to take the battery off there to reduce the weight a bit. What's also a good idea is this oil guard that comes included with it. That's pretty good. The wheels, they're 29 inch. I see on the new ones they say 27.5 inch. They seem to have good rims. They've got those tiny drainage holes in them, so if any moisture gets in there, it's supposed to drain out through them. They're very hard to get off, the original tires at least. Extremely difficult to get them off the rims when I had punctures. And the Maxxis tires that it comes with, I think it's the front one. No, I think I may have changed that as well. That's a Recon. No, it is a Maxxis Recon. That one's still original. That's still alright, but the back one, the sidewall split on me. So that was after about a year or 2,500 kilometers, which is about 1,800 miles. So I replaced it with a Hans Stumpf, I think it was. Honstumpf Schwalbe tyre, which seems pretty good. So I've done about 2,000 kilometers with that, and the sidewalls still seem intact. Been through mud, rough terrain, rocks, everything with that, and it seems to hold out okay. I've had a couple of punctures. Funny enough, I had a puncture on my puncture. How that worked, I don't know. And the pressures are quite high on these. You can put up to 4 bar or 58 psi in them. They've got Schrader valves, which is a bit awkward because you have to have an adapter for them. Whereas on the old bike, they've got the Presta valves, which is easier because that's standard, same as a car. I did get a cheap pump, which after using it several times, and these tyres need a lot of air in them, it wore out. It was less than £10, about £6 or something, that pump. So I threw that away after about a year. I have recently purchased another one, but I just keep it for emergency purposes, just to carry with me. It's just a compact one that cost me £6 at the local hardware shop, and it's got both the Presta and the Schrader, nozzles or whatever you want to call them on there. So yeah, that's pretty much the tyres. The brakes are quite sharp on it. I think they're Tektro brakes. Changed the rear pads recently, so they lasted about 2 years. A lot of extreme braking, going like 40 miles an hour or 60 kilometers an hour down hills. But otherwise, yeah, good brakes. I didn't realize they were hydraulic until I found that the back brake was spongy. It started feeling a bit spongy again recently. It's going in quite far, because when you turn this bike upside down to remove the rear wheel, which I did recently just to adjust the play and the bearing because the wheel was rattling around too much, I managed to get that adjusted correctly now. They don't seem to tighten those properly when you get the bike. But yeah, I didn't realise they're hydraulic brakes, and they've got like a plug in them that you've got to take out, and a plug at the bottom to remove. And I was trying to bleed them by pumping the fluid through from the top, but air travels upwards. So I just kept getting more air leaking into the system. So I ended up pumping the stuff in from the bottom, putting the reservoir on the top. Another thing I did with these brake levers is to move them down a bit so that the arms are straight when I'm holding them. But other than that, brakes are good. No complaints with that. The front forks, I've had no issues with those. They seem good on extreme terrain. They're adjustable. They've got the usual adjustments on them to lock them or to preload them. That's to lock, open, and your preload you can adjust on those. They seem pretty good. I haven't had any issues with those at all on some extreme rides I've been on. What else can I tell you? The steering is quite wide on this, which is sometimes annoying, because to get through doorways and those gates they put in parks to keep the motorcycles out, you've got to turn the steering sideways to get through there. But yeah, I suppose I could change that. I did add some bull bars on there, as you can see. What else was I going to cover on you? Oh yeah, the mud guards, extras that I bought for this. Mud guards, I just bought a cheap one for the back. That just clips on there. It's not too bad. Keeps most of the mud off. You know, I find it difficult to find any decent ones for that. Front one, I got a Pro Guard. That's pretty good. And on this bike, it has the holes in the correct place, so you can just bolt it straight on there, and that works really well. That keeps the mud, you know, the other day I went through quite muddy terrain on it, and it keeps the mud from spraying all over your face and the front of your clothes and that. So that works pretty good. The other extra I got was the Brooks saddle. Bought it online. To be honest, I've done about, I think it's 2,000 kilometers with it. Yeah, about 2,000 kilometers. Doesn't feel like it's broken in as yet. You're supposed to break these in and they're supposed to take up the shape of your butt. I got some mink oil, which is more like a grease kind of stuff, to soften it up. And yeah, I reckon 100,000 kilometers, probably more like it, so we're part of the way there. But yeah, I find about an hour's riding on that. Pretty much the same sort of comfort level as the original saddle that was on the bike. So yeah, I'll just stick with it and see, keep putting the mink oil on there. One thing, I did put some tape on that part because there's like a bolt there, and it has cost me 2 pairs of trousers, 1 pair of waterproof pants, and a jacket sleeve got ripped on that as well. Everything seems to catch on there for some reason, so I put a bit of Gorilla tape on there to cover it up a bit, because everything just seems to catch on that bit there. So we shall see how we go with that. Other extras that I bought, obviously the lights, just LED lights I put on there, the bell. I couldn't get one for the right hand side, obviously your gears are in the way there. So this is the bell from my old bike. Just mounted it on the left. Works pretty well and is required because there's a lot of people walking dogs on a long lead, like 5 meters, stretching across the entire cycle track. So the bell is needed. Some people wearing earpods, listening to the music, don't hear the bell. Others are just simply deaf, I think. But yeah, bell, that's an essential item. Phone holder, that's pretty good, rubber. I've had my phone in there several times, sometimes sort of just gone somewhere and gotten a bit lost. Used the phone to navigate back home again. And of course the trip computer, essential item. That's a cordless one with the sensor on the front wheel. And the other extra that I bought was this seat post suspension thing. I'm just trying to think what the make of it was again. It's just a basic one. Suntour, that's right, Suntour, that's what it says on there. Seems to work pretty well. You just have to adjust it correctly so that you don't bob on the saddle when you're pedaling. Once you get the adjustment correct, it's great. I wouldn't do without that, because that's saved a lot of backache and so on. Instead of getting like a full suspension, this is an alternative seat post suspension. That works great. I've had that probably for a year or so as well now. Still working well. Other thing I recently got about 6 months ago, extension for the steering, because I was finding that I was bent over a lot on the bike and getting a sore back after about an hour or so. And that helps because I'm sitting more upright. I don't need to be down so much. I'm not so worried about high speed and all that sort of thing. And bull bars was the other thing I bought. They're pretty handy as well. Just gives you another option where to hold the handlebars. You know, when you get tired of holding them there and when you want to get going, get some speed up, grip onto those suckers and away you go. So yeah, I think that's pretty much most of the extras. As I mentioned previously, I had to buy pedals because this bike came with some really ridiculous tiny pedals. Halfords pedals, they cost me £12. I think now they've gone up to about 14. Good pedals, they've lasted me 2 years no problem. Same as the ones I've got on my old bike. They seem to be pretty good. They've got the grips on them, pretty robust. So yeah, overall it's a good solid bike. The gears can be a bit fiddly to adjust. sometimes you get a bit of slippage when you're pedaling. I did buy myself a stand, which when I put it on the seat post, the bike is a bit unbalanced, but on the crossbar it seems to hold it okay. I take the battery off to reduce the weight when I put it on there. Just makes it so much easier to adjust your gears, to clean and grease up your chain and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just a basic one I bought at Halfords. Yeah, tires, like I say, can be quite tight on the rims, difficult to get off, and also difficult to get them to sit back on the rims, because I was having this thing where part of the tire was like sticking out more than the rest of it. There was like a bubble or something, because there's like a line on the side of the tire wall and you've got to get that to come out from the rim, and you can see by that if it's lined up, and part of it was always below the level of the rim, and every rotation it's like you're going over a bump, which can be pretty annoying. Ended up solving that by putting soap on the rim and then pumping plenty of air into the tire, like about 3.5-4 bar, so about 50 to 58 psi, I think that is. So yeah, you got to put plenty of air in these tires. Eventually I got the thing round again. Yeah, the bleeding of the brakes, that can be a bit of a hassle. The speed limiter can be a bit annoying, but that's the standard thing on all these bikes. It doesn't have a digital display, but I don't need it. You know, this is good enough for me, just the lights to indicate the power level and the battery level. That's all I really need. I've got my trip computer there. So yeah, that's a bit of an update on the bike. I've now owned it for 2 years and it's still in pretty good condition. Done 4,500 kilometers, which I think is about 3,000 miles. So I'm enjoying it. You know, I love going out on my bike. At least this one, the frame is the right size. It's an XL. Whereas my old bike, the frame is a bit on the small side. Can feel it on my legs and my knees when I'm pedaling that, because it's more of a strain. You can feel it's not quite right. But I keep that now mainly to do indoor rides on the bike frame during the winter if I can't get out. If it's bad weather or at night time, then I use the old bike. Oh, the other extra I bought for this was the bottle cage, which is a bit low down to reach, but other than that it's fine. And also being low down like the other day, it just got covered in mud. But there's nowhere else you can really mount it. That's the only mounting brackets they've got for it. So yeah, that's my 2-year update on the Giant Fathom E3. Hope that you enjoyed the video, and until the next one, hope that you all stay safe and well. Happy cycling, and bye bye for now.